Good evening. I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in to this Facebook Live virtual town hall. We've received a lot of questions throughout the day, and we gave people different methods to communicate. You could send in a question via email. You could call in today. And the final method, which is what you should resort to now, is commenting on the Facebook thread below your questions. The plan tonight is to go through a brief update on where we are as in the city of Oswego and the Oswego community as far as numbers and how we're handling COVID-19. Brief update there. Then I've compiled some of the questions, actually all the questions that were emailed to townhall@oswegony.org all day today. And then we also have some questions we compiled that were phoned in from residents to the phone line. And then once I get through these questions, and I'll try to go as quickly as possible, we will be pulling the questions that are asked off the Facebook Live thread, and I'll be answering those hopefully as they come in. So again, thank you. I'm joined by Chief Griffin, who is here in case I can't answer a question that comes in. He's here to correct me if I need to be and to clarify anything that I may miss and help out if I need to. So brief update. So the latest numbers for COVID-19 here in Oswego County. 1,351 people have been tested, 55 total positive, 46 have recovered, 57 total positive, 46 have recovered, 9 are currently active, 90 are in quarantine, we have 69 tests pending. Just to recap, April 2nd, I issued here in the city the Stop the Spread, Stay at Home order. That's still in effect. I want to remind people there's no non-essential travel in the city of Oswego. The only reason you really should be traveling is for medical appointments, essential workers going to and from work, and essential shopping for essential groceries and any items that you absolutely need. I'd like to take a moment and thank the public for all the cooperation they've shown to date. It's really been encouraging. It's been amazing to watch from my perspective to see the Oswego community coming together, following the rules, everybody for the most part doing their part to social distance and flatten the curve, stop the spread, as they say. I want to also remind people, no mass gatherings in the city of Oswego. You remember back, I issued an executive order banning mass gatherings both in residential neighborhoods and in public places. I'd like to remind people that we have a phone line, 315-342-8120, or email oswegopd@oswegony.org to report mass gatherings, parties, crowds of any kind. You can also report non-essential businesses who appear to be open, and if they're not practicing social distancing, we ask you to make us aware of that. I'd like to remind people, Oswego Police Department's done a great job, but they will continue to do social distancing enforcement details at larger retail stores. We've set those up every Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The last 2 weekends, we're going to continue to do that. Playgrounds, city amenities all remain closed. If you remember a couple weeks ago, playgrounds are closed. Basketball courts, softball fields, pavilions, stages, they're all closed and will remain closed. Parks we left open, so if people want to go for a walk, go for a bike ride in the park, we still want to be able to do that. We've put on extra patrols, and the DPW has been cleaning surfaces and amenities to allow us to continue leaving the parks open instead of doing that blanket closure that other municipalities have done. We ask that you practice social distancing and no groups of 3 or more. And again, if we do not get the cooperation that we've seen to date, then we will be forced to do that closure if necessary. I really don't want to do that. City Hall is closed, will remain closed. I'd encourage people, if you have any business to do with the city, code enforcement, building permits, rental permits, licenses, you need to get on the city website, www.oswegony.org. Just about every form, every application can be found on the website. To pay taxes and fees, remember we delayed bill payments 30 days, so taxes, city water, sewer bills are delayed 30 days, no penalty. However, if you want to make a payment, you need to call the city chamberlain's office at 315-342-8105, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, 9 to 12. Or otherwise mail in your payment. If you want to pay debit or credit, that's how you pay, is call in that number during those times. I also like to remind people, when schools first closed, which seems like a long time ago, the city partnered with the Oswego YMCA and Little Luke's to make childcare available for free in the city of Oswego. We gave preference to health workers and first responders and parents who are in the medical field. That was set to expire in early April. We extended that to May 1st, and we'll continue to extend that as these closures stay in place, if they stay in place. A couple of phone numbers and contacts that I'd like to take a moment to remind people to use. City of Oswego, we recently established a mental health and crisis hotline. If you're feeling that anxiety, if you're upset, if you're frustrated and you feel like you need some additional assistance, that hotline number is 315-320-3207. That is free for the public city residents to use. The City Hall General Assistance line, if you need help at City Hall and you don't have a computer, can't get on the website, 315-343-4990. The County of Oswego's COVID-19 hotline, 315-349-3330. I encourage everybody to visit the City of Oswego Emergency Assistance website. The address is cityofoswegooemergencyassistance.org. That was a website the city quickly established that is really a one-stop shop for all things COVID related and any assistance you may need. Food banks, childcare, unemployment assistance, mortgage relief, student loan relief, anything that you could possibly need, small business relief, is consolidated on that website, along with city updates and county updates. Before we get to the questions, I'd like to again thank the staff here, city employees, animal control, Oswego Police Department, Oswego Fire Department, code enforcement, economic development, DPW, all the staff at City Hall. They've all stepped up in their respective departments to help the city get through this tough time. City workers are still working, whether they're working from home or still the essential workers reporting to work. They're doing a great job getting us through this. Everybody's come together. It's been inspiring to watch. A great amount of teamwork. We're all in uncharted territory, right? And we're all working together, doing the best we can, and I appreciate their help. First responders, especially OPD, OFD, they've had a lot handed to them in addition to their normal routine duties, and I can't thank them enough for their assistance handling the COVID pandemic. Medical workers in the Oswego community, thank you for all you're doing, and the general public, as I said a couple minutes ago. It's been great to see people following the rules. They understand what's going on. You've been so helpful, and as I said, the general public, citizens of the city of Oswego, will control our destiny, and the better we are at social distancing now, I think the quicker we can get back to living life as normally as possible, and I look forward to that day. And the better we are at social distancing now, and the more cooperative the public is, I think the sooner we'll be able to open up and get past this entire ordeal. So thank you, thank you, thank you. With that, as I said, we have some questions that have been compiled from folks who phoned in or emailed. I'm going to go through those, and then we have some folks here that are going to extract the questions off of your comments on this Facebook thread, and they will hand them to me once I get through these, and I'll try to address the questions as we go. We're looking at about a 45-minute block. If there's a large influx of questions, we'll extend it to an hour, and I imagine time's going to fly by, so we'll dive into it. The first question is from Tricia B. It was emailed in, And the question is there any plan for law enforcement to enforce wearing masks into our retail stores? It's an executive order, which makes it a law enforcement issue, not the responsibility of retailers. They're dealing with enough. As I said, OPD, OFD are already doing social distancing enforcement details outside of these stores during the weekends and sporadically as we go. We encourage people to wear the masks when they go into these stores and when they're out in the public around other people, and really anytime they're out of their house. I want to remind people that just because you're wearing a mask doesn't mean you are safe from the elements. It's really a precautionary measure, but you shouldn't put on the mask and just venture outside and think you're okay. It doesn't shouldn't give you a free pass to do whatever you want. So keep that in mind. We are asking retailers to do their part and help us enforce this. And the fact is, we're out there educating people and encouraging them to wear masks. We've been doing that and will continue to do that. Next question, actually a couple of questions from Andrea and Brian V. A question about law enforcement. What's happening to folks who are being released from jail? The same thing that normally happens. What happens to people during this time when they're arrested or being detained? That's a bit different. There's an appearance ticket that's issued at the scene in some cases, in most cases, quite frankly. And if they have to go before a judge, they're brought to either a cap court, if that's allowed, or they are arraigned as they normally would be, but they're arraigned via Skype. So that's actually a good question. The second question they asked, can we as a county make the decision to reopen, or the governor of the state decide? So we have local orders that we established locally. The stop the spread, stay at home order we did. We closed the parks, we closed Wrights Landing Marina, etc. We can lift those locally. Those local orders obviously can be lifted locally, but the approval to reboot the economy, to begin opening businesses and other activities, ultimately is really up to the governor, and he has said that regions can come together, put together plans to present based on their specific situation for state consideration, and then that'll be either approved or denied. So that's a great question. The next question, Russell K. What is the city's stance on food trucks opening around town? So the city passed legislation a couple years ago now where we regulate and actually started designating locations for food trucks. The locations are identified and can be rented by people who own food trucks to sit. The spaces that have been rented so far for spring, summer, and fall of 2020, we've asked the food truck vendors in those locations, I believe there's 6 or 8 total locations around town. We've asked them to hold off until further notice, and when we feel comfortable letting them set up in those locations, we will tell them. We're also going to obviously refund some of their money since they're only getting half the season versus the full season. Mike S. has a question emailed in from regarding Wrights Landing Marina. This is a good question. He says, I think the opening of Wrights Landing Marina should be looked at again, especially with the reopening of state-run marinas. I think this will allow you to show your trust in the public to maintain social distancing. Another added benefit would be to give the public a sense of hope. What we are doing is working, and because of this, we can now enjoy the marina. The public should understand the city-owned marina is a luxury, not a right, and that if we aren't responsible with the opening, it will have to be closed again. Good question. I don't really have any good news. The difference between the state closure of marinas and then the reopening of marinas and boat launches is a little different than the closure of Wrights Landing Marina. I actually made the decision to close Wrights Landing Marina before the state shut down marinas. The reason for that is Wrights Landing Marina is experiencing three different issues. COVID is obviously a major issue. You have charter boats, recreational boats in transit that are the intent of the business is to bring people in from other areas, whether it's other counties in central New York, downstate, or out of state. People come to Oswego County, to Wrights Landing Marina, to experience our world-class fishing, which normally is a great asset to our community. However, in this case, bringing people in from other areas into the community for the day can be a detriment. In addition to the COVID challenges, if you drive to Wrights Landing Marina right now, which I would advise against, you'll see a significant amount of construction. We have various projects going on all at once that will actually improve the marina. However, just as we experienced in downtown last summer, there's some growing pains that make it worse before it gets better. Right now, there's about half a dozen improvement projects taking place at Wrights Landing Marina. So COVID, in addition to the heavy construction that is only going to increase as we go, didn't make sense to open the marina during both issues. The third issue, and probably the worst at this point, is the water level due to Plan 2014 continues to damage Wrights Landing Marina and city property in the area. The level has gone up drastically just in a few days, and that is posing challenges, just as it did last year, to the marina. So really, three major issues happening down at Wrights Landing and International Marina all at the same time. COVID, lots of construction and high water. It makes sense to leave Wrights Landing shut down until July 13th. Unfortunately, probably not welcome news to most tenants and charter captains who use Wrights Landing and International. The conversation we're having in city government is not to reopen before, whether we reopen or don't before July 13th. It's a matter of if we're going to open at all this year. That's the conversation we're having. So July 13th is going to be the absolute earliest, if at all. We'll make that decision as soon as possible. Again, just like last year, that is the last decision we want to make. It's the last thing we want to do. But the fact is, there are three major things happening at once, and if we can't provide a condition even close to acceptable or safe for boaters and the public, then we're not going to open it. So we'll make that official decision as soon as we come to that decision. This is actually a Wrights Landing question as well, which I just answered. Greg D. Can you discuss the timeline for repairs for flood prevention to the parking lot at Wrights? High water seems to be an issue each year now, and we're wondering how soon the parking areas will be raised. This isn't actually a COVID question, but it's relevant based on the last question. So it also says, thank you so much for this opportunity. We appreciate all the improvements being made in Oswego and look forward to another 4 years of good things. I appreciate that. However, like I said, a lot of the construction does involve raising the two parking lots at Wrights Landing Marina. We're actually elevating the parking lots 3 feet to prevent flooding in the future. The projects are being in the design phase right now. We hope to finish that design, get the projects out to bid later this summer for construction in late 2020, spring 2021. And we hope to complete the projects as early as possible in 2021. This is a question emailed in from Sue W. Is SUNY going to reopen, and will the Oswego City School District reopen? The opening of colleges, private colleges anyways, typically up to the college president. The SUNY system obviously is run by New York State. That decision to reopen not only just SUNY Oswego, but the entire SUNY system will really be up to Governor Cuomo. I believe he'll consult with individual presidents for specific campuses. If the reopening is something that's possible. So that decision is really up to the governor and the SUNY president of whatever campus we're talking about. In this case, President Stanley at SUNY Oswego. School districts statewide, the same thing. Ultimately, that'll be up to the governor. Also, I'm sure based on where counties are and regions are with their numbers and testing and all of that. It's a good question. Another question was Thomas F. We've been told the number of cases and number of tests administered to date, but we've heard little about the capacity of our local healthcare system like Oswego Health and other local or regional hospitals. What's their capacity, and do you believe it to be enough? That's an excellent question. So I'm aware of the number of beds and ventilators that Oswego Health here in the city have at any given day. The number for ventilators generally hovers around 15. I think the specific number today was 16. And the number of beds hovers around 50, which to date that has been more than adequate. And given that we believe the worst may be behind us, I feel comfortable with the capacity. The established COVID system is not stressed here locally and has been not been stressed at Oswego Health as it relates to COVID. Obviously, Oswego Health has been dealing with other issues because they can't do certain surgeries and financial issues and things like that. But in terms of COVID, their capability has been actually tremendous, and it's one of the great things that have helped get this community through. I do want to pivot for a moment and again highlight the importance of social distancing. The reason we pushed social distancing so hard and continue to push it is because we could not exceed that local healthcare capacity. If we did, that's when really disaster strikes, and that's why even though we didn't have as many cases as other surrounding communities had, our healthcare capacity here in Oswego County isn't as great as those other larger communities, right? So everything being relative, we had to push social distancing to keep our positive cases down so that our local healthcare system here in the city of Oswego did not become overwhelmed. So far, as I said, we're in great shape. Kudos to everybody who's followed the rules and has been considerate and cooperative. We're not done yet. We need to stay within our capacity, and that's why we need to keep social distancing and not give up or not not get lax here in what hopefully is the home stretch. That's an excellent question. Beverly D, what is your stance on allowing businesses to reopen? Governor Cuomo said we're closed until May 15th, but what do you expect to happen after that? So this has been there's been a lot of debate around this question to date. There's been talk about the regional approach, which the governor has said he's going to follow. And I agree with that, but it goes beyond just the regional approach. I'm less concerned with the geographic location and where the city of Oswego line is and where the Oswego County line is and where the Central New York region is. That's good, and I think it's a good start, but I think what we need to consider moving forward and what community leaders need to consider is let's look at it as based on use and activities, right? I don't think, well, Oswego only has a few cases, they should open up, but another county with more shouldn't. That just doesn't make much sense. Oswego County is a good example. People live here and work in Onondaga, and vice versa. They live in Onondaga, work in Oswego. So it just doesn't make sense to treat those two areas separately. But we do need to look at use and activity. So I think what you saw with the golf courses and boat launches, good example. They were closed down and then reopened because you can easily social distance there. And I think as we begin to consider rebooting the economy and reopening some businesses, I think you don't do it based on where they're located, but you do it based on their ability to social distance, how many people are in a facility at the same time. The governor closed different businesses at different times, I think based on that logic, and I would imagine that there'll be a similar strategy to reopen. I do want to thank Onondaga County Executive Ryan McMahon, who's included me and the city of Oswego in the regional reboot conversation. The Central New York region and counties are discussing how to go about the reboot, and I appreciate his leadership. He's done a great job, not only for Onondaga, but Central New York, and I look forward to working with him as this conversation evolves. And lastly, I want to take the moment and just tell people I understand the frustration. I understand cabin fever. I understand the difficulty for small business owners who are receiving no revenue and still have expenses. The fact of the matter is, and I feel this at both ends, right? I'm the mayor of this city, and I feel that I'm personally responsible for 18,000 lives for my 18,000 constituents. I'm also a small business owner who works for mass gatherings, right? Festivals like Harbor Fest and the State Fair. So I'm feeling it at both ends, and can relate, and arguably mass gatherings will probably be the last phase to be restarted. But I do think that we need to power through this and try to social distance the best we can, and understand and remind ourselves why we're doing this, so that we can get done with it sooner rather than later. And I just ask people that there's a reason we're closed. There's a reason we're going through all this trouble to social distance. There's a reason businesses, municipalities, individuals are suffering, and the reason is to save ourselves time and aggravation in the long run, and to stay within our capacity, and to be considerate of others who are more vulnerable than the rest of us in this community. And I understand the frustration, but from my perspective, I have more than my restaurant to consider. I have more than just my small personal world to take into account. I feel that I'm personally responsible for the lives of everybody in this community, and I'm prepared to make the difficult and even unpopular decisions that need to be made to protect everybody. So that's how I feel. That's the strategy. I'll give feedback and opinions based on that rationale. At the same time, I do think we are in a different place than other counties. We're not downstate. We don't have it as bad as they do, and I do think there's an opportunity to start turning that valve back on and start restarting some businesses here. So I think we're in a good place to start rebooting, but we need to remain in this place and not let up now. And when the governor gives that approval, Oswego needs to be ready to go. The reason why we're remaining so strict on social distancing is because what I don't want to have happen, and what I'll be really disappointed in, is if other communities in upstate New York begin to reboot their economy, and our numbers, our social distancing isn't the data the state's looking for, and other people are rebooting and we're not. That's what I don't want to happen. That's the worst case scenario, and that's why what we do these next 2-3 weeks is critically important to how quickly we get back to work. So, great question, and I'd like to thank everybody again who's following the rules and understands what's going on. Tom C., along the same lines with businesses, what is the city doing to help small businesses who've been hurt by this pandemic? The city of Oswego, and I'm extremely proud of this, stepped up early on to make $275,000 available in $10,000 increments for small businesses in the city of Oswego. Once we made that funding available, we pledged to get it out the door within 10 days, and we did. All that money is out the door. So we made that money available to fill that gap for them, to help fill it. And I'm extremely proud of that. It took a lot of work, but kudos to the economic development team for getting it done. We also distributed to every household a flyer with restaurants doing delivery and takeout service along with their contact information. And also there's still some funding out there for businesses through Operation Oswego County. And our economic development team has been in contact with them to refer businesses that we couldn't fund and give them that second chance to secure funding. So that's what we've done so far. Another question is Kevin M. We're beginning to see various governments and institutions mention furloughs and mass layoffs to mitigate some of the financial losses because of the virus. Is the city of Oswego considering doing the same? If so, what services will be impacted or reduced? That's an excellent question. I'm extremely proud of the way city governments managed this entire situation to date. And because we've managed, we properly planned and we managed all along, I don't feel that we're in that situation right now. And I will do everything I can. I don't think when we're relying on OPD and OFD now more than ever, discussing furloughs and layoffs is really appropriate at this time. So I'll tell the public what I've told department heads. As mayor, I craft the city budget. You continue providing quality services, the services our residents expect. You guys are stepping up and doing great work and exceeding expectations here when handling this pandemic. You do what you have to do, and I'll worry about, it's my responsibility to worry about the city budget. So in the past few years, we've reduced taxes. We've made controversial, significant cuts. We've made investments in departments as well. And if it comes down to tough decisions, we'll of course make those tough decisions. But the managing our finances these last 4 years and making those decisions and properly planning for this and putting the city in a good position in terms of equipment, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of staffing, will ease the burden that COVID-19 will place financially on the city. So I'm confident that we'll get through this, and services will not be negatively impacted, at least in the immediate future, and we'll do everything we can to prevent that. That's a good question. Another question from Regina V. I'm currently a graduate student at Syracuse University, finishing my master's in social work in August. I'm finishing up my clinical internship at Farnham in Oswego County at this time, and was wondering if I could volunteer my time to work the mental health and crisis hotline for Oswego County. How would I get involved? I'm not sure if there's a mechanism set up for Oswego County to accept volunteers like that. What I would say is, if you're interested in volunteering and helping, I would look at organizations like Farnham, like Victory Transformation, like Catholic Charities, for instance, and reach out to them and see what you can do. I believe they all are involved in mental health in one form or another, and I know that they always need volunteers, right? So while county government, city government may not have that mechanism set up, these organizations I'm sure do. And people are volunteering to make masks, delivering food, various other activities where the general public and individuals are stepping up. I appreciate that, and it makes all the difference. So keep up the good work, and thank you, Regina, for being willing to help. This question is, the county executive for Onondaga County reports number of cases in the city of Oswego and surrounding areas. The Oswego County Health website only lists the total number of COVID cases in the county. What are the total number of identified cases in the city of Oswego? The last update I received was we had 3 positive cases here in city limits. This is a longer question from Cindy S. My question is, have any of the positive cases been hospitalized at Oswego Hospital? I know that answer is yes. There's some more questions about Oswego Health. I'm not sure I feel comfortable answering a question that I think Oswego Health would answer, so I'll skip that. Also, when is antibody testing of asymptomatic people going to start happening in Oswego County? That's an excellent question. There's two different kind of tests. There's the swab test, and that sort of test is to determine if you're positive or negative for COVID-19. The test this person's referring to is the antibody testing. The antibody testing is to determine if you've already had COVID-19. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're immune to COVID-19, but it can identify if you've had it previously. New York State's approved to do their own testing, and there is not one declared test that's used. Different states, different organizations are using different tests to do antibody testing. Governor Cuomo, I know, has been pushing for more equipment, more material to do more antibody testing, pushing the federal government to make that available so that labs can pick up the pace, if you will, to get the testing done. Once that capability is increased, then you'll see the antibody testing increase happen more frequently in more places. So that's kind of in motion and taking place now as we speak, building that capability. The one caveat is, obviously, as the antibody tests become available, it makes sense and is perfectly reasonable that the areas nationwide and statewide harder hit, like downstate, will see the antibody testing locally before the city of Oswego or Oswego County does, which makes total sense. Be assured that city government, county government is in that conversation. We'd love to see that antibody testing here, but the logical way and reasonable way to go about it is once that antibody testing capability is ramped up even more than it is now, you'll see it deployed to the areas hardest hit with more positive cases than we have here in Oswego County. Excellent question. Jamie H., is contact tracing occurring in Oswego County? Yes, that's a great question. The Oswego County Health Department is in charge of contact tracing. What contact tracing is once they identify a positive COVID patient, they will then backtrack, if you will, and see where the person was, who they interacted with, and make the contacts if they feel it's appropriate, and the health department will administer that and set up tests for any contacts as they deem appropriate. Typically, if you are in contact with somebody who was declared positive for COVID, you'll enter a quarantine for 14 days. That's a good question. Kevin A., did Governor Cuomo take any of our ventilators downstate? The answer is no. They found ventilators elsewhere and we didn't ship any down. Dave R., this is an antibody test in our area. I think I just answered that. Donna D., I work in a grocery store in Oswego and I wear a mask while working, but a lot of people are still coming in without masks. We need to enforce it and stop it. I understand, and that's why we've sent up details to handle that outside our large retail stores. Again, don't just think because you're wearing a mask you're immune to everything. You should still shop for essential items only, stay home when possible, and wear a mask when you're out in public. Leanne B., I'm self-employed in Fulton without good health insurance. What if I get the symptoms and need to get tested? What do I do and how expensive is it? And if I can't afford it, what do I do? So first of all, if you have a primary care doctor, you should reach out to the primary care doctor first and allow them to advise you on the next steps. If you have signs and symptoms of COVID and you don't have a primary care physician or insurance, you should contact the county health department, 315-349-3330, or the New York State COVID hotline. And testing is free statewide for individuals. So they will set you up with that test and advise you on how to proceed from there. But if you don't have insurance or don't have a lot of money, don't worry. Testing's free. This is another question about the boat launches. I think I covered that. This is a question about an essential business that I won't name. This is from Michelle H. Why she names a business and asks why they're deemed essential. Local government, City of Oswego, does not deem businesses to be essential or not. There's criteria published that is handed down from the state determining who is essential and who isn't. Locally, we do enforce it, and we've been doing a great job doing that, I believe. And again, if you think a business is operating and don't believe they're essential, let us know. Businesses can apply to the state to get a waiver to be declared essential if they kind of fall in the gray area and the state makes that determination. So I know the business you've mentioned does have that essential waiver. Jackie N., I don't have a question. I just wanted to say thank you. I think you're doing a great job. Thank you, Jackie N. I appreciate that. Tracy R. Due to COVID, will citywide events such as the farmers market, city events, and HarborFest be delayed? So the farmers market we've already delayed to July 9th, the summer concert series to July 16th, and again the Wrights Landing Marina is closed till at least July 13th. HarborFest is obviously the biggest event. We're not making any determination at this point. We are going to, I'm in constant communication with the HarborFest board. This isn't just a city government decision. HarborFest has its own board, and we talk to one another. We're not making any decision now. We're planning for the festival just as we normally would. But we are talking, and we'll have to make a decision in the next probably 30 days. So I think this is a day-to-day situation where it changes. I think a lot of it, we'll see what the governor does with the state fair. This may not even be a local decision. If the governor does not lift the mass gathering restrictions, then it won't even be our decision. So we'd love to have it happen, but it needs to happen in a safe manner, and the data and the science, if you will, and the health experts will offer their advice and opinion, and that's what we're going to use ultimately to make our decision. But again, too early to tell. You'll notice the dates I mentioned for Farmers Market and the concert series in Wrights Landing are the middle of July. HarborFest is the last weekend in July, so we hope that it's safe to have, and we'll see, and we'll notify the public immediately once a decision's made. Kathy N. says city workers picking up yard debris aren't masked, they aren't social distancing. Walmart has too many people without regard to social distancing. Aldi's is doing a great job. Supplies citywide are still scarce. Great job keeping numbers down citywide of COVID-19. So we're working well with our retail box stores with these enforcement details. It's a joint effort, and we ask people to, when they enter these facilities, wear masks anytime you're out in the public, and try to stay away from the stores, quite frankly, unless you need absolutely essential items. That's a good way to get social distancing numbers down and to protect yourself and your family. City workers, we just got a shipment of new masks in, so we will be distributing them, so you should see more city workers with those masks on, and the employees like DPW, for instance, when the guys and girls are down in the sewers and manholes and working on water digs and the road paving projects, we don't feel wearing the mask is exactly necessary in that setting, because a lot of times they're not near exactly close to an individual. However, we will like to, when they're in parks working in groups, which we've really limited, or riding in vehicles, DPW at least, they will start wearing masks. So there's the questions that were mailed in. I was just handed some of the Facebook questions? I'm gonna take a drink quick first, and we'll get to these. So the first question is, not necessarily COVID related. What's going on in Civic Plaza? Is the city on track for updates? Civic Plaza is the sewer separation project. It's that $85 million project that is separating our stormwater system from our sewer system. This is the last phase of the project. Unfortunately, it's in the oldest part of town and in our downtown, so that's what's going on. Once that construction's complete, we will replace the pavers in Civic Plaza, repave the streets. That construction really will go from West Utica to West Cayuga, and is going to be taking place all summer, so it's going to be a heavy construction season for that area. Will schools be closed the rest of the academic year? I mentioned this earlier, but in case anyone wasn't tuned in then, and they are now, that's a decision that, at least with K through 12 schools, will be up to New York State. I think will likely be made, if not on a statewide basis, then certainly at least a regional basis. What should we do as citizens if we see families visiting stores together? You know, first and foremost, as I've said multiple times, there is no reason to be going to the store every day. There is no reason to be going to the store for items that are not essential items. I don't think going to the store to purchase the latest video game is an essential item. I think you should go for groceries and those items that you absolutely need. If you have to go, one person of the household only, there's no reason to bring the entire family into the store. No reason to bring young children into the store. No reason to bring elderly parents or grandparents into the store. You know, that is the exact situation that we advise against, and just don't believe that there's any real reason. We're also working with local stores, as I said. OPD and OFD have been doing details, social gathering, social distancing and enforcement details outside of places like Walmart, Lowe's, Price Chopper, educating the public as they come in, explaining why social distancing is important. OPD, last weekend, they were giving out masks for people to use. They'll do the same this weekend. And just trying to educate people to take, you know, responsibility, think of what you're doing. We're working with the managers of the stores who have been cooperative and have reacted to our social distancing requirements. I appreciate their cooperation. We'll continue to do these details in the future, and ultimately we just ask people to use some common sense and be considerate of others. Was an alternative spot for the farmer's market considered, one that has better social distancing? That's actually a really good question. We didn't, and again, the farmer's market's actually run by the Chamber of Commerce, but just like Harborfest, we bounce ideas off of each other and work together to run the farmer's market. We didn't really consider alternative spots. We thought the issue with the farmer's market isn't necessarily, well, one of the issues is the social distancing issue, but it's also mass gathering issue. So, you know, when you pack that many people onto West First Street, or even if it was in a parking lot, you still have a lot of people in a smaller, crowded space. And that's why we thought, at least at this time, it was better to just delay the market from, I think, end of May or beginning of June until early mid-July, and we'll reassess that. If it makes sense and it seems to be okay to have people in a setting like that, in a mass gathering setting, then we can certainly explore other locations to consider. However, the issue is we're running out of space. The location off the top of my head right now would be the Marina or the Brightbeck Park area, but there's so much construction that would be difficult to pull off. But that's actually a great suggestion, and we'll talk about that as time goes on and July 9th gets closer. Got a couple more. Larry W. Does the city have masks, and if so, how can I get one? We're giving out masks, as I just said, at our social social distancing enforcement details outside of large retail stores. We'll be doing that as our supplies here in city government last. If you can't get your hands on a mask, I would suggest that really using what you can to cover your nose and mouth, whether it's a handkerchief, a shirt, any material really that you can use, a bandana to cover your hands and mouth and nose, we would ask you to do. So there's really inexpensive ways to get that done, probably with items that you have in your house. So that's one way to accomplish that. This is a good question. If someone travels from out of state and they visit family, what do they do? So if they are out of state or far away and come to Oswego for a period of time or any time really, New York State is actually a state, there's no law requiring them to mandatory quarantine. However, I would suggest that just out of respect to the community and the people you will be around, you should take it upon yourself to voluntary quarantine for 14 days because you've traveled and we're not sure who you came into contact with or how many people or what you were exposed to. So as mayor, I would ask that if you're traveling in from out of state, voluntary quarantine for 2 weeks. That being said, as always, if you have signs or symptoms that have been highly publicized related to COVID, you should seek your general physician and explain to them your symptoms. Your primary care physician, explain your symptoms. Don't just show up. That's a situation that has happened. I've heard has happened a couple times here locally. So don't just show up. You want to place that call, explain what's going on, and they will advise you from there. But that's an excellent question. That's a question that I've been asked quite a bit. So I'm happy to be able to provide that answer in a public setting. So any other questions coming in off of Facebook, or have I addressed most of them? With that, yeah, and that was about an hour. Cool. Well, with that, we will close the town hall. I'd like to thank those who took the time to phone in, call in, comment on this thread. Thank those who took the time to watch. I hope it was beneficial. I've been, impressed again and thrilled with the cooperation from the public, doing a great job following the rules. I would ask that you just please stick with it. We're coming up with strategies to reboot the economy when the time is right. And again, stay involved, keep watching for new information. I'll keep thinking and having new ways to deliver that information. People I've noticed are extremely engaged. They relish new information on a daily basis, and it's my responsibility and to deliver that information in an easy, accessible, clear way. I'll continue to do my best to do that. And as always, I mentioned the resources and phone numbers at the beginning, but if you need any help at all, the County of Oswego COVID hotline, 315-349-3330. When it comes to City Hall, the City Hall General Assistance line, 315-343-4990. And our city website's oswegony.org. Our emergency website for all things COVID related, with any resources you may need, City of Oswego Emergency Assistance.org. Feel free to reach out to my office, 315-342-8140. We have a mechanism set up on the city website, oswegony.org, where you can email my office and other offices at City Hall right on the website, so I encourage you to visit that. Thank you for tuning in. I'll do my best to keep you informed along the way, and please stay safe, stay healthy, keep social distancing, and we will get through this together. We're all in this together, and we'll come out stronger once this subsides, and I look forward to that day. Thank you, and have a good evening.